Barry! Barry, you there?
Yes, Dick, I'm here, but I can't quite see you.
Barry, are you in a cave?
Yes, a cave in Lebanon.
Barry, you're in the Holy Lands?
Sort of. I'm in the Holy Lands in Missouri, in Bible Lands Park at Cedars Camps, and the reason that I'm here is because I think this is a great setting here in this cave to talk about the divine embracing our humanity, even in our darkest moments. The most frequently occurring type of psalm in the Psalter is the lament psalm. And what I love about these psalms is that each of them begins with the psalmist pouring out their heart to God, often asking questions like, "How long, O Lord?" Or "Why is this happening to me?" And even though each of these psalms begins by authentically voicing the pain and protest of the psalmist, each of them ends in praise, teaching us that for our praise to truly be authentic, we have to be open to God in every moment of our lives, even in the darkest of moments. As one psalm scholar puts it, you shouldn't try to protect God from how you feel. Doing so is trying to play God rather than pray to God. The lament psalms teach us that we can be open and authentic with God not only in the heights of our lives, but also in the depths. That, in Mary Baker Eddy's words, these lament psalms teach us to lean on the sustaining infinite. Come with me, and we're going to get a glimpse of this infinity. We'll walk along what will become a Bible timeline and look at some characters that teach us about the meaning of grace. So come along. Whenever I feel like God can't use me because of all the mistakes I've made, I'm assured by an email that I receive that says, Noah was a drunk, Jacob a liar, Moses was a murderer, and Rahab a prostitute. David had an affair, Jonah ran from God, Peter denied Christ, and Saul, well, before becoming Paul, he killed Christians. And yet, even though these characters made all these mistakes, they were able to serve God because what propels the plot of the Bible and of our own lives is not the greatness of human achievements, but rather the greatness of God's grace. Join me for a view of that grace, of that infinity we were talking about earlier. This lake is only several months old, and it's built to represent geographically to scale the Mediterranean Sea, teaching lessons about the lands of the Bible. It also teaches me lessons about God's grace. Over and over again, the Bible teaches us that love is the very nature of God. Not because humans earn it, but because God is love. In fact, even before the Israelites agreed to obey 613 commandments, God delivered the Israelites because he loved them as the apple of God's eye. And when the Hebrew people finally arrived at Mount Sinai and promised to obey the commandments, their very next words were, "Let us make gods." And they went on to build an idol to the Canaanite god Baal. It's in this moment of relationship crisis when God proclaims her resume in Exodus 34 verse 6, declaring in what may be the central verse of the Hebrew Bible, the Lord, a God gracious and merciful, abounding in steadfast love and faithfulness." The word translated there as merciful in Hebrew shares the same root with the word for a mother's womb, rechem. The Hebrew word rachum, therefore, can be translated not only as merciful, but as Phyllis Tribble would argue, could also be translated as motherly compassion, teaching us that the very nature of God is a heart full of love, motherly compassion. God's motherly compassion shines through in the book of Jeremiah. After 29 chapters full of prophecies against idolatrous and unjust Judah, once this message of judgment is swallowed and experienced, God declares a new message in Jeremiah 31. Is Ephraim my dear son, my darling child? For the more I speak of him, the more I remember him. Therefore my womb trembles for him. I will truly show motherly compassion upon him. I will put my law within them, and I will write it in their hearts. I will be their God, and they shall be my people. No longer shall they say to each other, Know the Lord, for they shall all know me, from the least of them unto the greatest. For I will forgive their iniquity, and remember their sin no more. In other words, what God wants is a love based not in knowing about God, but in knowing God. The Hebrew word translated in this verse as knowledge comes from the root yada, which means intimate relationship. In fact, it's the word used to say Adam knew Eve and she conceived. What God desires is for us not to try to impress God, but for us to simply know God, be in relationship with God, accept God's infinite embrace.